Hello and welcome to the Gigabyte Intel overclocking competition. Today I'm going to show a little bit about overclocking using the Gigabyte P35 DQ6 motherboard, which utilizes the Intel P35 chipset. This is paired up with an Intel Core Quad Q6600 CPU with the G0 stepping. My system is currently housed in the Cooler Master Stacker Series black aluminum case. It offers ample room for anything you want to put in it, from air cooling to water cooling. My current setup utilizes a water cooling system from Swiftech. For the CPU block, we have the Swiftech Apogee self-drive pump and water block built into one. From there, the water is pumped down into my 8800 GTX water block, which is also by Swiftech. It is a pelt-cooled water block. From there, the water is cooled down by a Swiftech dual 120mm fan radiator. And on this particular radiator, the reservoir is built in. This makes it much easier to maintain. Alright, so on to the BIOS. Here we have the Gigabyte standard BIOS settings for the motherboard. We are going to look at the Intelligent Tweaker. This is where all the overclocking settings are housed. Also, if you hit Control F1, the screen will flash and it opens up the memory timings, which are only accessible if you hit Control F1. Alright, so in the settings for the tweaker, we have at the top Robust Graphics Booster. I always set this to Turbo. Here we have our CPU clock ratio. Standard is 9. That is also the maximum you can put in for this particular processor. Here's your CPU front side bus frequency. Right now, everyday running, I have it at 430, but for my overclocking entry, I had it at 450. For system memory multiplier, I use 2. It's kind of relaxed for memory. My memory is only running at DDR860, and my RAM is stock DDR800 RAM. However, it can run higher, but for everyday purposes, I run it at this speed. I also run the performance enhance on my RAM at extreme as well, and tighten the timings down to 4412. As for voltages, when overclocking, you must up the voltages. However, you don't want to up them too much, especially if your cooling is insufficient. You could fry your parts. For DDR2 overvoltage, I have it at my stock RAM rating of 2.2 volts. I overvolted the PCI Express by just a small margin. Front side bus is bumped up by 0.15 volts, as well as the GMCH by 0.075. And for the important part, CPU voltage, I currently have running at 1.48. Now this is a very mild overclock for my current system. This is running at 3.89 gigahertz, and this is my everyday setting. Alright. We will save. Actually, we'll exit without saving and boot up into Windows. My system is also currently using a RAID, which is supported on this motherboard. The motherboard actually includes a massive amount of serial ATA ports. Currently I'm only using 4. I have 2 serial ATA DVD burners as well as 2 serial ATA hard drives in RAID. However, I still have 4 more open slots. Alright, so now we're into Windows. Go down here. Check on my temperatures. Temperature is key when overclocking. Let's see. Current system temperatures with my fans on low is at 41 on the CPU on all 4 cores and 32 on the 8800 GTX. Now this is a very low temperature for the 8800 GTX, considering it normally idles at around maybe 50 to 60 degrees Celsius. This is thanks to the pelt cooling by Swiftech. I will go ahead and crank my fans up. It's a little bit louder, but with the fans on high, I am able to overclock even further. As you will see in a few minutes, the temperatures will drop fairly drastically. In the meantime, let's take a look at our CPU-Z settings. Alright, here we show the clock speeds, multiplier, bus speed, and the rated front side bus speed, as well as your standard information and your core voltage. Now this bus speed on this motherboard is rather phenomenal. If you want, you can drop the multiplier down to 8 and bump the front side bus speed all the way up to in excess of 500. I've had it overclocked to actually 510 running on an 8 multiplier. Here we have our main board information of our Gigabyte P35 DQ6, Intel P35 chipset, ICH9R Southbridge, as well as the BIOS version that you're running. I'm currently running F4, which is dated from May 11th, 2007. As for memory, my current memory timings are shown here. Again, a very mild memory overclock. Alright, and back to our temperatures, which, as you can see in the few short minutes, have plummeted. The CPU is now at 36 degrees Celsius idle temperature, and the video card is dropping down. It's now at 29 degrees Celsius. Another tool I enjoy using when testing stability before running my 3D Mark is SuperPi. It stresses the cores, and that way you can tell if your CPU is getting too hot before it's too late. Let's go ahead and run just a short test. Calculate 1 million digits. There we go. As you can see, the CPU is being taxed. It's gone up a bit, but it's still only at 37. And we finished in 13 seconds. Now I've gotten it, the bump up to 4.1 gigahertz brings it down to 12, but for everyday purposes, this is just fine. And that's my short tutorial on overclocking with the Gigabyte P35 DQ6 motherboard on my water-cooled system. I'd like to give thanks to Gigabyte as well as Intel for sponsoring this competition, and thank you for watching my film.